Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure.
$1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people, when this classic Bible teaching, motivation.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, people trying to get down.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
I'm attorney Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson, like really loves.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Here is Fontenot. Fontenot gets the ball up. The shot is up. It's good! It's good! Fontenot hits a clutch shot with 0.4 remaining. They say the game is over, but there's still to be 0.4 remaining on the clock. Fontenot is the hero in today's
A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. As you were able to see, Southern University, I guess, shocked the HBCU world, defeating Jackson State 65-64 in the SWAC Women's 2023 basketball tournament semifinal game. That sets up Southern University to take on the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. That's today at 1 p.m. for the SWAC Tournament Championship. Here's the guest menu for the Carlos Brown Show. Of course, Charles Edmond joins me as always. Following Charles Edmond will be Coach Vann Pettaway. And then last but not least, it will be Willa Brown. Here's what's trending, simply trending, on the Carlos Brown Show. Southern University women take down the number 1 seed, Jackson State Tigers, 65-64. As we see the footage again, and from a different angle, but still the same results. Boy, Fontenot with a 3-pointer to basically win the basketball game, but some other clutch 3-point shots. We'll get a little bit more into that basketball game. Wow. Southern University takes down the number 1 seed. Southern University spring football practice started this past week. Some news of note. Southern University has a new quarterback coach. He's the famous Black College Hall of Famer Willie Totten, now joining the Southern University staff as quarterback coach. The SWAC tournament finals are set. Southern and Arkansas Pine Bluff in the women's championship. On the men's side, Grambling State University, who I picked to win it overall in the SWAC tournament championship. They'll face the nemesis, Texas Southern University. We talked about them as a dangerous basketball team. They're in the finals once again. So that sets up an outstanding doubleheader today in the SWAC basketball tournament. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Southern University men's team, basketball team, eliminated once again. And I have a lot to say about that, of course. And then last but not least, a former Prairie View A&M football player went on to play in the NFL. Otis Taylor passed away, former Kansas City great and Prairie View A&M football player. So he has journeyed from this life. That's what's trending here on the Carlos Brown Show. Joined now by Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. And I'm sure Charles is excited in a sense because basketball is continuing in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. But for his number 1 seed Braves, they went down to a Texas Southern team. And Charles, I'll just tell you this, Texas Southern, my goodness, when it's tournament time, no matter if they start out poorly in conference, if they're leading the conference, they are always in the conversation. And once again, Johnny Jones, they just turn it up a notch when it's tournament time. But good morning to you, Charles.
Good morning to you, Carlos. First of all, congratulations on your Jaguars. Who would have saw that coming? And March Madness is officially here, number 1. Number 2, as much as I love being at home, I hate being at home at this time because normally we would be in the SWAC championship game. I would be coming to you live from Birmingham. But, hey, I think it's safe to say that Texas Southern is our kryptonite because we cannot beat this team in the SWAC tournament. Landon Bussey's 0-3 against Texas Southern in the SWAC tournament as a 6 seed. In year 1, losing to the 3 seed Texas Southern, and then last year in the SWAC championship game, and then in the first round, that 1-8 matchup. And I didn't see it coming because Texas Southern had lost 3 in a row going in to the SWAC tournament. But they were healthy, and Landon Bussey warned us about Texas Southern being a dangerous team. And they just simply physically whipped us in the paint. Something that happened in last year's SWAC championship game. So it's the same old formula, the same old recipe. And again, and even despite all of that, we still made a run. Texas Southern had a 17-0 run in a 5-minute span. That basically was the story of the game. We cut it to 3, just like against Southern after being down 18, but we just couldn't make enough plays. Texas Southern made enough free throws to kind of help pull away. So congratulations, Texas Southern, and I think it'll be a very fun and entertaining and physical men's championship game. But congratulations to the Lady Jaguars. That may be one of the biggest women's upsets we've seen in a long time. I thought UAPB and maybe Bama State would match up well with Jackson State, but look, Southern clung to Jackson State like Velcro. 15 ties, 16 lead changes. They were not afraid of Jackson State in no shape, form, or fashion. I mean, to stay close to JSU throughout the whole game, I think says a lot about Southern University and how they were able to elevate their game. So congratulations, Southern University, and I think it'll be an entertaining women's championship game.
Well, and it's interesting because I think this women's basketball team was confident because when they played them in the regular season, Charles, they played them pretty tough, and then toward the end, it kind of got away from them. But Fontenot, Genovia Johnson with one big three to kind of start it off, and then Fontenot with 2 threes. And I mean, you're down 5 with what, 16, 15 seconds.
You're down 4 with 12 seconds left.
Right, and then you hit a big shot. Then you strategy wise, you fouled Jackson State. They missed a free throw, kind of set it up, and then Jackson State in full court pressure. But one pass into Fontenot, she just took it down the length of the court, and a hell of a shot. It was a hell of a shot, and it made ESPN, the news center, and everything. But it's just shocking in a way. But with that being said, you celebrate quickly, but what does it mean for now today? You kind of gotta celebrate, but kind of forget that quickly because you got a turnaround game at 1 p.m. and Coach Brown at UAPB, they're playing very well, and you can't underestimate UAPB. And then the last time that they met, wow, they took it to Southern University. So some motivation both ways for Southern University, and about, I guess, about 3:30, 4 o'clock, 3:30, 3:15 Central Standard Time, the conference will crown a SWAC tournament champion for 2023.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a really good game. I think for Dawn Brown, obviously her first finals. For Coach Funches, obviously as an assistant under Sandy Pugh, he's kind of been through this grind a little bit in the championship. So we'll see. I think the key is going to be, his experience. And I think for Southern University, I mean, last night they shocked me not only in the score, but for them to hit 10 threes. I mean, 3-point shooting is something that, and against us, I remember they hit some threes, but is Southern known for their 3-point shooting prowess? No. But hey, in the postseason, those type of things can and do happen. And Southern was on it from beyond the arc against Jackson State. And I think that caught Jackson State a little bit off guard there because, you just don't think Southern can hit that many threes, especially from beyond the arc. So I think that was one of the huge factors in the game. And hey, you got to turn it around. I mean, you got to come off that emotional high, and then you got to turn it right around. We'll see how much gas Southern has in the tank emotionally, because that was such a huge win. It made the social media rounds. It made ESPN and everybody the pats on the back. But you got to forget about that and get ready for that early game coming up here in a little bit and playing a UAPB team that, and I said it on the Sports Zone the other night, who was the dark horse team on the women's side? I said it was UAPB. And so, they're playing with house money. Southern's playing with house money. Should be a fun women's championship game.
On that note, we'll take our first time out of today's show. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU, league pass. It's game time, I'm proud and I love my HBCU. HBCU, league pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU, league pass. It's game time, I'm proud and I love my HBCU.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. If you just joined us, we were talking, me and Charles, about Southern University takes down the number 1 seed, Jackson State, 65-64. So the tournament finals are set. On the women's side, number 4 seed, Southern University, takes on UAPB, number 7 seed. How did they get there? Of course, Southern University defeated Jackson State 65-64. And then in the quarterfinals, Southern University, and maybe this was a hint, a clue to Southern University getting to the championship, they destroyed Prairie View in the quarterfinals 64-37. On the men's side, it's set. Number 2 seed, Grambling State University, takes on the 8th seed, Texas Southern University, but probably one of the most dangerous 8th seeds in recent memory. They took down the number 1 seed, Alcorn State, and then Texas Southern took on an Alabama A&M team that, hey, took care of Southern University and were behind at one point in that game. And then Grambling State, how they got there, of course, they defeated JSU 78-69. So Alabama A&M, Jackson State gone home. But let me tell you, Jackson State, the future looks bright on the men's side. They did very well. Alabama A&M, first-year coach, did very well. Swept Southern on the men's side, faced them 3 straight times. They won 3 straight times. So that's where you sit as far as men's and women's tournament championship. Want to say good morning to everybody in the room. For the men's basketball team, Charles, Southern University lost by 14, 77-63. Now let the speculation begin. Opinions. We don't have any facts yet, but you text me, and I will give you credit. You're gonna stick to the plan. You're gonna stick with it. But for this Southern University men's basketball team, second consecutive year to get swept by a conference school basketball program. Last year was Grambling State. This year, Alabama A&M. If the conference regular season would end in January, of course, we know it doesn't. Jaguars, at minimum, co-regular season champions are winning outright. But unfortunately, the regular season ends in the first week of March. So February, for the last 2 years, has just been disastrous for Southern University. Just disastrous. So Coach Banks now, they'll have their, I guess, evaluation at the end of the basketball season. And for Southern University's men, it is the end of the basketball season. So in the chat room, what do you think? Do you think Southern University makes a move and get away from Coach Woods? Kind of looked at his winning percentage. Okay, 59% winning percentage at Southern University. 5 years. And if I believe what Coach Banks stated in an interview on the Carlos Brown show, he said in a 5-year period, you should at least, it is reasonable to think and very valid that you at least can win one championship and be very competitive. And I'm throwing in even a couple of regular season championships. They got close 1 year, but now you have to do what's best for the men's basketball program. And quite simply, the question will be, will Southern University, will they move on from Coach Woods? Charles, is going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some very difficult conversations and very difficult decisions that are going to have to be made. This A&M team, and you're right, they are on the rise. Jackson State's on the rise. The Landon Bussey and the Braves are going to be there. Where is Southern in this pecking order now? Now, we had this conversation back and forth. Is Southern close to the top, the middle, or the bottom? I think we can now say at the end of the season that Southern's probably trending downward a little bit. You just saw Alabama A&M a few days ago in the last regular season game. And you turn right around a few days later and don't get it done again. I think that means that has to be some serious conversations being had at this point. Just as a SWAC fan, knowing how good Southern was, they were at the top of the league, and for them to have this exit at this time to this team, Alabama A&M, and no disrespect to A&M at all. I mean, they're playing well. They're playing well. But I think for Southern, you've got to do some serious evaluation. And if there's one person that can evaluate a basketball program, it's a former basketball coach who's been on that sidelines. And we're talking about A.D. Roman Banks. So he's going to have to figure it out, because right now I think a lot of people are jumping off the bandwagon. And as a fan of the SWAC myself and following Southern, it was disappointing. And you just didn't see it. I saw some of the game. Southern just didn't have it. And that just can't happen. So I think as a former basketball coach and an AD, You know, Roman Banks is getting calls and texts from the Jaguar Nation. It's time to do something. What that's going to look like, I don't know. Could be a change, could be a complete cleaning out of your assistant coaching staff. I know a lot of people are probably saying it's time to move on. I think a game like the other night kind of showed that maybe Roman Banks has some compassion. I don't know, but it was clearly disappointing. There's no doubt about it. And is a change needed? Probably so. And I was on the Sean Woods bandwagon up until the other night. I thought that was really disappointing, just the way that the season ended, considering you were number one in the league and you fall, and then you get knocked out by a team you just played a few days earlier. I think those things, call a bad look. And I just think something probably is going to happen. The question is what and when.
Well, I'll say it. I look at the body of work. A 59% winning percentage at Southern University. And it's interesting, kind of in the group text message with our colleague, Brian Fulford. He's also on the Coach Sean Woods bandwagon. But if you look at the body of work, what is your benchmarks? Have you met those benchmarks? And sometimes you have to have a cold, calculated, and I know emotion plays a part of it. And quite simply, if I'm the director of athletics at Southern University, I look at, have my benchmarks been met? I know there's other factors, student graduation, as far as the student athletes in the program. You look at that. But at the end of the day, is this basketball program trending up? Is it trending downward? You said, or someone else said, is it the middle of the pack? I don't think the basketball program is in the middle of the pack, but it's not at the top where it should be. And again, you look at the last 3 years, coming out of January, they're leading the conference. And for some reason, February just have it's been disastrous. So taking all of the factors in play, if I'm the director of athletics, which I'm not, of course, I thank Coach Sean Woods for what he's done, and we move to another direction. Now, if you make that decision, yeah, there's a chance. Well, you got to start over. But then I look at what Coach Bussey has done coming in at Alcorn State. The director of athletics made a decision. They went with it, and it proved to be a benefit of what Coach Bussey has done at Alcorn State on the men's basketball program. Yeah, Texas Southern is their kryptonite, but look what he's done in less time. Just my opinion, But
yeah.
Ultimately, it'll be Coach Banks' decision, and I guess he'll consult with his staff as well, and we'll see what happens.
I think it's a little bit different circumstance. If you look at Southern's program before Sean Woods took over, compared to Alcorn's program when Coach Bussey took over, our program was near the bottom. And in a short period of time, he elevated it to a 6 seed, then 2 regular season championships. You can probably answer this question better than me. Where was Southern's program prior to Sean Woods coming on board? Were they at the bottom? Were they a mid-tier team?
No. Coach Banks, he was a basketball coach. Now think about that. You think it was at the bottom? Nope, not with Coach Banks.
Right.
But continue, Charles.
Okay, so when he left the program, what was their record? Where were they? Would you consider them a mid? I thought Southern was closer to the top with Coach Banks. He always had that team in contention. So now you look at Sean Woods, his teams have been in contention through the first month of the season. only to fall off the map in the last 2 months of the season. So when you look at that, is it time to scrub it? And as Wheeler Brown said last week, you got to take your medicine and take some steps back. I think the way that it's ended, especially this year, might cause for a change to be made. But I think as a former basketball coach, he has to look at all of that. Now, as far as his contract is concerned, I thought maybe he had another year after this. Is this it for his contract?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the last year.
So
But
this is
I
it,
will
as far as
check again.
contractually.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Charles, now based on, if you just talk to the alums and supporters and fans, their decision is crystal clear. But of course, they don't make those decisions. Once again, it'll be left up to the athletic administration, and specifically AD Banks. We can try to smooth it over. We can kind of shape it, the narrative, this way or that way. The bottom line is, I think when you trend down, you have a disastrous February. If it was 1 year, okay, that's one of those things that happen. But if we go back the year before, and we go back the year before that the trend shows that something is wrong in February and the first week of March. Now we can speculate, we can give theories on what it is, but the bottom line is a choice will have to be made. Now I was kind of rough with Coach Funches, but look how they battled back, and now they're in the championship game. Someone asked me, "Well, how do you feel about Funches?" Well, I know he got an extension a while back, but he deserves to be at Southern University next season and the next season. And if they win a championship today, you got to go back in and reassess and then offer him an extension.
Yeah. I, I would say if this is the last year of the deal, then there's an easy out for Southern University. That makes the decision a lot easier. If there's another year left, then if it's a university option and you mutually agree to part ways, then yeah, that makes it a little easier as well. So I do think all the energy and the synergy about it is there probably should be a change. But again, I don't know what Roman Banks' thinking is. He knows better than anyone. As a former basketball coach there, he knows what's going on in that program. There's a lot we don't know, whether it was injuries, poor coaching, poor decisions, all that. It could be all of that. But I do think, though, the program, you could say now, is trending downward, especially after the other night, losing to Alabama A&M, a team you just saw a few days ago. That you know what they have and what they don't have and what you got to do to get to the next game. And that was really disappointing. I didn't see a whole lot of energy out there on the court as well. So I think, you got to take a look at all of that. So it's going to be a tough decision, and some would say it should be an easy decision. But as a director of athletics, former basketball coach there as well, it is going to be a tough decision either way it goes for Roman Banks.
That is the $100,000 question. Will Coach Banks make the decision? That's what we will have to see. Southern football spring practice, other decisions. You look at Coach Dooley and them, they've started spring football practice. The biggest question is going to be, who's going to come out the spring, the number one quarterback? Coach Dooley was asked, would that decision, or could that decision be made after spring? He said, absolutely. There you go, Coach Dooley. You don't have to wait to fall camp. Put off decisions. Pick a horse in the race and go with it. But it will be proven by competition. And the help in that quarterback decision will be Willie Totten. Now, quarterback coach at Southern University. He comes in with a lot of football knowledge, of course. He's quarterback on those great Mississippi Valley State football teams with Jerry Rice. I can give my opinion. I think at the end of the day, I think Noah Bowden comes out number one. I could be totally wrong. Coach Dooley and them will make that decision. Spring game, April 1st. We will see. Devin Cotton on the defensive line is back, although kind of limited as far as the first couple of practices. Did most of condition work. Coach Dooley and the Southern football team, um, they're gonna get their 15 days in quickly. They're not gonna split it like Southern has done in years past. The practice went around spring break, but hey, that's going to be the number one factor of many factors, Charles, with Southern University football practice starting up. But my prediction, let's see if I'm right or wrong. I think Bowden comes out number one after the spring.
Well, first of all, about Willie Totten, congratulations to him. Valley, I think Willie Totten was trying to maybe be the next head coach at Mississippi Valley football. Didn't happen. He was a finalist to be Valley's athletic director. Didn't happen. He left Mississippi Valley, and for Coach Dooley to bring him in to share his expertise at the quarterback position, I think that shows a lot about Coach Dooley. I think Willie Totten knows the position better than just about anybody. You could say, well, he came from Valley and all that. I know there's some people that are probably thinking that. We got to get past that. Willie Totten's a good dude. He was a darn good quarterback in his day, and I think he knows he's forgotten more about the position than most of us know. So I think to pick his brain is really, really, really good for Coach Dooley and that program. For Coach Dooley to come out and say after the spring he's going to name quarterback, I think that's interesting. Because you only have limited, work in the spring. You still got the summer, and then you got fall camp. Interesting that he would say that he's going to announce it this early. I thought he probably would wait until maybe halfway through fall camp, just kind of let it play out all the way through. But he's pulling the trigger. He's making a decision. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm going to take a wild guess, Carlos, and I'm not in that building. I'm not in that program. You read it more than me. You say Noah Bowden. I think he probably is number 2. I don't know the kid's name. Who is the kid that's from Baton Rouge?
Dylan, I got to practice on their last name. Metro Holtron. I'll practice on it. Transferred from University of Alabama, Birmingham, played locally in Baton Rouge Episcopal High. Interesting thing, did not take a snap in 2 years of in the regular game at University of Alabama Birmingham, but definitely in the mix. Harold Blood, and look, we're making predictions, but it's going to be played out. Competition is a good thing, and out of the spring, he was asked, Coach Dooley, could there be a decision made? He said absolutely. But let me put the but in. I think he will do it, but I think it'll go down to very quickly after the spring game or right after the spring game, then a decision will be made.
Yeah, I think my prediction, I think the UAB transfer, the kid from Baton Rouge is going to be your quarterback. I think from a court of public opinion and the PR spin on it, I think fans are going to clamor for that. And hey, no disrespect to Bowden. I saw him in person when we played Grambling when he was there. I think he's going to be in the mix. I know you've always liked Harold Blood. You like him, but I think considering this is year 2, and I think Dooley's got to make an improvement. Even though they made it to the SWAC championship game, it left a lot of bad taste in a lot of folks' mouths after that, especially at the quarterback position. I think that you're probably looking at that UAB transfer. If not game 1, game 2 is probably going to be your quarterback because the fans are going to rally behind him. because he is a local product. And it's wrong for me to say that, but I think that's just where we are as fans. I know a lot of fans want to see productivity. It doesn't matter where they're from, where they came from. It doesn't matter. But I think in this case, I think, in my opinion, from afar, I think he's going to probably be your guy before it's all said and done. Nothing against Bowden, nothing against Blood. I just think he's going to be the guy. We'll see.
Yep, we'll see. And I fit in that category. Competition, who wins it out? He could be from Timbuktu. Don't matter to me. Just my opinion. They've got improvement in the quarterback room, in my humble opinion. So let's see how it plays out. Going to be interesting. Spring practice. Some coaches have told me that that's where championships are made, are won in the spring. We shall see. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to get Coach Pettaway's perspective on Charles' this swag basketball tournament. His Alabama A&M men's basketball team, hey, they're trending upward. Jackson State trending upward based on the tournament. And we'll get his opinion, his perspective on Coach Woods. You know, coaches, they have a thick relationship. But is it time? Is it time to look elsewhere? Then we'll add Willa Brown from a athletic director's perspective. Oh boy, this could be interesting. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the perspective. We'll take a time out. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Can I get the now bar, please? $1. Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching say, hey, this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching, motivation.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. As you can see, the crew is here. I'll simply term it as the crew. Coach Vann Pettaway, good morning to you. Willa Brown, good afternoon to you. And you're in the Eastern Standard Time. Good afternoon. And of course, Charles Edmond. Well, this is always an interesting part of the show. Here's where I'll just take some notes, and I'll go first to Coach Pettaway. Coach Pettaway, the tournament in itself, how would you grade it so far up to this point?
A+. I think it's been an outstanding tournament. The league has shown its parity by all these upsets. Um, it's great, man. These athletes have come out and performed. The coaches have done well. I'm elated. I'm proud of the product that the SWAC has put on the floor, and both men and women. And coming into the tournament, a lot of people had already passed out the trophies before the games were ever played. But the games have to be decided on the floor, and the coaches who were not ranked at the top, they're showing how much parity is in this league.
And that's interesting because I remember you a couple of shows ago said Texas Southern, a very dangerous basketball team. Of course, we know they started out slow, injuries, but doggone it, when it's tournament time, you can't bet against Texas Southern and Coach Johnny Jones, number 1 seed on the men's side. They go down. On the women's side, the number 1 seed goes down. I guess this is one of the attributes of March Madness, guys. Anything could happen and can happen. Now, let's get this out of the way quickly. Predictions on the women's side. Southern University and University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Coach Pettaway, Willa Brown, and Charles Edmond. Who do you think gets the trophy at the end of the day?
Well, I'm gonna go. I'll go first. I think I like Southern. I like Southern. I think they're in the groove. They're playing well. So if I had to pick one, it would be Southern.
Now let me follow up, Coach Pettaway, and then I come to Willa Brown. I was excited. I got off the floor after the shot, the 3-point shot. I literally dove on the floor, and I'm in my 50s. That's not easy to get back up all the time, but I got up. I'm kind of worried about, or should I be worried about, from an emotional standpoint, them getting ready for a UAB, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff team. They've got to quickly cut that out and get focused on this game, because beating Jackson State, that was huge.
Right. Beating them was huge, but that also should have let those ladies know this is our tournament. We just eliminated the number 1 team that everybody had going come into this tournament. We just eliminated them. This is our tournament. You don't have to look down at your opponent. You just play at the same level that you played at to eliminate the number 1 seed. So I look at it as motivation. I look at it as a confidence builder. That's how I would approach it. And I'm quite sure coaches I'm quite sure Carlos Fuentes is doing the same thing, same way.
Yeah. Willa Brown, former guy, knows something about basketball as well. Prediction on the women's side.
I'm gonna have to go with Coach Pettaway on that one. I think Southern are bringing it on home. I think once you have gotten to the point where they are right now, and with a big win, even though it's at the buzzer, people can say what they want to say, luck or what have you. I think the momentum from that kind of carries you the rest of the way. And you don't have to worry about the kids being overconfident or thinking that things are over or anything like that. It's a great motivational tool for the coach to use. But I think it's Southern from here on out. Now, what you're gonna have is some procrastinators who are going to be upset now because Jackson State probably won't go to the NCAA's. I mean, they'll probably go to the NIT because that's the consolation prize for the regular season
Regular
champ.
season.
So you may hear some people piss and moan about the best team from the SWAC not getting into the NCAA's. But for me, that's the beauty of tournament play, that sort of thing. And to me, that's what it's all about. Whoever gets the hot hand at the right time, they're the ones that brings it home.
Well, that's interesting. I have to be consistent. You're looking at one of those guys who would be happy with just sending the regular season champion, but that's not the case. So, in a democracy, somewhat, you have to go with the majority. And with that being said, yeah, Jackson State, WNIT. Um, I wonder if they will host a game or will they be on the road. We shall see. Charles is shaking his head. Charles, I think some of you have rubbed off on me, but Alcorn, NIT on the road. So Jackson State, the women's NIT on the road. Correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at, even though they did well in conference, and the commissioner talked about this when I interviewed him, Jackson State struggled a little bit in non-conference, and I think those type of things hurt you in March. And this is a conversation that we've had forever. What you do in December or not do comes back to get you in March. We don't think about it at the time, but I've always screamed and preached, hey, we have to do better as a conference in November and December because it does impact you in terms of where you go in your seating as a conference come March. So as they say, the chickens are coming home to roost on that, even though Jackson was dominant in conference. They struggle in non-conference. So I do think they'll be playing on the road in the NIT. My prediction, I think this game's going to come down to coaching a little bit. Coach Funch is working under Sandy Pugh, even though it's been some time ago. I think that experience matters. And I'm going to give an edge to Southern University in this game. I mean, yes, they slayed the Dragon. If you had told me a week ago that Southern would be in the finals, I never would have believed it. I thought that UAPB Lady Lions would be a dark horse team. I said the other day that they probably are going to upset A&M, and they did. And so I congratulations to Don Brown in getting there. But something tells me that the Jaguars in this game are going to win this game. I think you slay the Dragon, you feel confident, but from an emotional and energy standpoint, they've got to be able to do it again. And that was probably the biggest win in Southern basketball history in terms of the SWAC, beating a team that looked unbeatable. But now you got to do it again. And I think they will. I think it'll be a very close game. But if it's a slow scoring game, I think Southern will win. UAPB's got the bigs with Pete, and they got some really good backcourt players. They're going to push tempo, and if they do that, I think they'll win. But if I had to make a bet, I'm going to put my money on Southern University to win this game.
College athletics is a beautiful game. College basketball is a beautiful game. On any given night, you can lose a ball game, you can win it. And for Southern University, what they've done, we'll come back to our discussion on the coaches and get your opinion on Coach Fonchez and Coach Woods. Now I'm going to switch to the men's side. You got GSU and Texas Southern University. I picked Grambling State to win it all, but my prediction may go down. I mean, Grambling State's playing well, but my goodness, Texas Southern. Coach Pettaway talked about a very dangerous team. I would not be surprised if Texas Southern hoists the trophy again, Coach Pettaway, and they would have to win it on the court.
Right. Well, here's my reservation. What is Walker's status? He only played 5 minutes in that ball game because of an incident on the sideline. He went to the locker room and eventually came back to the bench. So what is his status? Texas Southern cannot beat Grambling without Walker. If they're going to have a chance, they got to have a full squad. Now, let's say he does play. Well, whatever triggered his reaction, has that been settled internally on the team? Because
Good point.
it was a team thing. So if you got turmoil on the team, the coaches make the decision that, yeah, we're gonna let him play. But what about his teammates? Do they feel the same way? So see, there's a lot at stake right now. And because of that, I'm gonna have to go with Grambling. Even though Texas Southern is playing well, Grambling has played harder than any team that's here now, right now.
They've been
In
consistent.
this tournament, yeah, their first game was amazing. They jumped out. They started that game with so much intensity. It's unreal. Now, yesterday, no, they did not. Texas Southern came out of here and punched him in the mouth. I'm sorry, I'm not Texas Southern. They got punched in the mouth, but they responded to Jackson State. They responded. But because of the unknown, I'm going to have to go with Grambling on the men's side.
Wheeler?
This is where Coach Pettaway and I are going to disagree. I'm going to go with Texas Southern. And, you know, I'm going with pedigree on this one.
Right.
You know, they're used to being there. They've been there numerous times and, you know, feel like they're supposed to be there on a regular basis. And, you know, sometimes those are the little nuances that you need in terms of carrying you over the top. You know, Texas Southern historically has a history back when Mike was coaching, you know, that, you know, they were always hovering around the top or, you know, right there near the top sort of thing. And so I think there's that feeling that they belong there. And since they've gotten this far, I think it may be enough to kind of carry them over the top. But like Coach said, there's so many intangibles there that's involved. Definitely not a betting man because I think you know those dollars could flow either way, and you could come out on the
Yeah.
short end of the stick if you're not careful. But I just think Texas Southern carries it over the top.
Man, I can see both points on your predictions. Charles, I don't know. I picked Grambling State, but why am I kind of nervous about my prediction? Charles, who you have?
Well, now that my team is eliminated, I can put my other hat on, which is my Grambling hat, because I'm a Grambling Knight. And I have just been a big fan of Dante Jackson.
Yep.
I'm just been a big fan of Dante Jackson since
So
he's
am I.
been there. That team won the regular season when they were ineligible to even go to the postseason. But, you know, Grambling had a little turmoil to start. Now, one of their players was suspended due to an off-campus incident before the tournament. It made the news, and I thought, how is that going to impact Grambling? Well, it hasn't. I think Jackson State, you got to give them a lot of credit for playing hard and being in the game with Grambling. But, you know, Grambling was the better team. Grambling's on a roll right now. The last loss that they had was to Alcorn. And it was a game that they had a chance to win there. Their best player, Christian, had 3 free throws with 9 seconds left. He missed them all at home. So Gramble's on a roll right now. But I tell you what, Texas Southern, as they say, you never estimate a heart of a champion. Texas Southern very well might not have been in the top 8 at all. But for them to start out 0-5, for them to climb back, for them to make the tournament as the 8th seed, they lost 3 in a row to end the regular season. And then for them to be in the tournament, they're playing with house money. But if I had to bet, I'm going to go with Grambling. I just think they're playing too well. And if John Walker III is not available or limited availability, I agree with Coach Pettaway. I've seen that team 3 times now. John Walker III is a beast in the paint. Okay? And as well as Jordan Carl Nicholas. Without Sean Walker, I think it's going to be really tough for Texas Southern. But I'm going with Grambling. I think Grambling's on a roll, even though we've seen upsets already in this tournament. I mean, it wouldn't be a total surprise if TSU comes out. But I think right now, I think Grambling's the better team. They're the more comfortable team. They're just on a roll right now. I'm going with Grambling to hoist the trophy.
And the interesting thing is you can always say, well, whoever gets off to a good start. We've seen in several games teams jump out to a big lead or a comfortable lead, and then you see teams come back.
Right.
And so I was about to say Grambling State probably wants to come out in a 1-2 combination, but boy, how do you respond to a punch? And I've seen that in this tournament so far. Teams resilient, their resilience, and they come back. So it is going to be very interesting to see what happens in this SWAC tournament championship. But it's been some. I've enjoyed it. It's been some excellent games uh, being played in the tournament. Now, with that being said, let me turn again. Coach Pettaway, Coach
Yes.
Woods at Southern University. Your Alabama A&M basketball team defeated Southern 3 times in the season. That's the second time in consecutive seasons that Southern's been swept. I was being facetious earlier. I said if the conference ended in January, Southern would be at least co-champions or champions. But in February, it has just been disastrous. What do you think happens? I'm just asking for your opinion and perspective. And then I'm gonna get Wheeler Brown from the athletic director's perspective, but from a coaching perspective, Coach Pettaway, you kind of got a feel for Coach Woods.
Well, yeah, I do. I like Coach Woods, but
Hmm.
this is a very tough situation. When you say A&M swept them won all 3 games, a lot of times it's because of matchups, and that's what
Hmm.
happened in this case. Southern Alabama A&M has their number because of the matchups. They just do better against Southern, and Alabama A&M can't take that same. They can't take that same formula and beat other teams. So sometimes it comes down to matchups. I remember when um, Arkansas Pine Bluff ended up getting that one group. I used to own Pine Bluff until
Hmm.
they got a group of athletes together, and in those 4 years, those kids came on out on top against me, and it was because of
Hmm.
matchups. I couldn't match up with their. I couldn't match up with uh, the 4 and the 3 spot on that team, and therefore I lost to them because of that. Southern could not match up with Alabama A&M. That's all. It's matchups. That's the
Hmm.
difference. But as far as what should happen, I've been in that seat. I've been a coach. I will never say a coach needs to lose their job. I won't say anybody needs to lose their job. But because of the nature of the beast, yes, something probably is going to happen. When they did not give him an extension last year, I knew that there was a reason for that. Remember at last year's tournament, I came in and offered them a spot in the CIT,
Right.
and
Yeah.
AD Banks didn't accept it. He didn't accept it. I knew something was wrong then. I said, okay. They did not want Sean. Now, I'm not saying it's AD Banks now, but they did not want Coach Woods in the postseason, even though
Hmm.
the university had been invited because I extended the invitation. I knew that something was wrong then. And
Hmm.
and I think when Coach Woods didn't get an extension last year, he knew he had to win this year. Now, what they consider winning,
Yeah.
hopefully
Benchmark.
they sat, yeah, hopefully they sat down and they put some goals in place or some milestones for him to reach. And that's normally how it's done. I know that's how it was done with me. You know, they would just sit down at the end of the season and say, we want to see this improve or that improve, or can we do this? And that's what we did.
Yeah.
So I don't. So to answer your question, I hope he gets another year, but in my opinion, it doesn't look like he's going to get one.
Yeah. Well, uh, last week, Willa Brown kind of talked about either going all in or not. And the 1 year extension, um, it's not good in a way, but Wheeler, you're in the position. We're putting you in a position. Um, where do you go with this? I know it's a tough situation.
Well, I think it's two trains of thought here. Uh, Winning trumps all at the end of the day. Yeah. And question becomes, had he met that particular matrix in terms of expectation? Now, you're going to throw in things like retention rate, graduation rate, all the things that go along with that, character with the kids, and, things of that nature. Winning would have helped any shortcomings in those other areas. Unfortunately, those other areas are not going to make up for the lack of winning. So while we sit here and say that, we got all these things that we're grading him by, that sort of thing, at the end of the day, it's W and L's and championships, ultimately, that he is going to be graded on. My question is, was the bar set so high coming in the door that he could not have possibly reached that height, okay, because the expectations were so high coming in? And we know Southern, we know the Southern faithful and what's expected in the whole 9 yards with that, and I understand that. But was the bar set so high coming in the door that nothing but three championships out of the last 5 years would have gotten him over the hump, or three championship game appearances, or three postseason appearances out of the last 5 years? Would that have been the matrix that would have kind of carried him over the top? That sort of thing. I think him losing early didn't help matters any, and maybe Coach Banks was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt by waiting and seeing what would happen this year, or to towards the end of this year, and by them bowing out early, it really kind of validated why he didn't give him an extension early on. So I think the handwriting was pretty much on the wall. But like I said, my thing is, was the bar set too high from the beginning? Was this a situation where we could have reasonably expected him to do well, not only right away, but a sustainment of the success year in and year out? What was the goal on a yearly basis? Was the goal to get to the semifinals of the conference tournament year in and year out? Was the goal to, be in the upper third of the conference every year, from a men's basketball point of view? And, did he or did he have the resources necessary to reach those heights? Was that a little bit too much for him to reach for, or with everybody looking at I ain't gonna say the myth of Sean Woods, but the mystical being that is Sean Woods, and the history of Sean Woods, and so forth and so on. And he did it at Valley with nothing. Here we have him at Southern with almost the most of everything, and so we're expecting what happened at Valley pretty much on a year in year out basis. So it's a catch-22. But I mean, if I'm sitting in the AD's chair right now, it's hard for me to extend him. No knock against Coach Woods. I think he's a fine guy, that sort of thing. We're just talking strictly basketball, strictly athletics here, strictly off of the resume that I see right now. It would be hard for me to extend him right now, but the question becomes, is there somebody else out there better that can help me reach the heights that I need to reach? Or am I rolling the dice once again, trying to find lightning in a bottle somewhere, that sort of thing? So the question is, does Coach Banks have somebody in mind that he thinks that can come in and make the transition smooth. So as Charles Edmond says, you're not taking two steps back in order to move forward. And so that becomes the question. What is the plan moving forward? Do I have somebody
Right.
that I want to bring in? Do I have some names in mind? Do I have a short list? And can those people on that short list take me to where I need to go in a reasonable amount of time? Because at the end of the day, Coach Woods is Coach Banks' hire. So they
Mm-hmm.
tied to the hip on this one,
Right.
and when I ain't gonna say when you make a mistake, but when things don't work out and this was your hire, there's only two ways you can go. You can try to divorce it as quickly as possible, okay, or you go all in, okay, and he's tied to your hip, and you're gonna ride or die. We're gonna ride this thing out and take it where it needs to go, that sort of thing. So I think Coach
Right.
Banks is kind of like in no man's land right now. I'm hoping that he's got a
Mm-hmm.
short list out there somewhere, and that should he be prepared to uh, make the move and let Coach Woods go, then he's ready to expedite this process as quickly as possible. He's got some quality names out there, got some quality people that he believes can come in and do this thing for him because, quite frankly, okay, we talk about Coach Woods being on the clock, and this is Wheeler Brown talking now. Okay, when your hires in your major sports don't work out, your AD
Mm-hmm.
goes on the clock also.
Right.
So
And
Yeah.
that's a
the
great
hot
point.
seat
That's
is more than one seat
hey,
is hot.
right.
There's more.
Brown, that's a great point. And Carlos, because I do
Mm-hmm.
have to go. Let me just say this: this
Okay.
year there will be no CIT, so there will be no bids extended. Last year we had 4 different teams that refused the bids. So this year they're taking a year off. So there will be no SWAC teams in the CIT because there will not be a CIT. And I
Okay.
got 45 minutes before tip off, and I do have to get prepared for
Okay.
the ladies game. All right.
I,
Hey,
I,
thank you,
I
and
understand.
okay, thank you, and I'll be back next week. You all have a
Yes,
great
sir.
day.
All right. We appreciate you. And that was Coach Vann Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. Um, Brian Fulford. I'm got to give credit when you quote your source. Brian Fulford, a colleague, Black College Sports Network, the ONG Strike Zone. He brought up this information. Woods in conference, winning percentage at Vann 61%. At Morehead State, 60%. Southern University, 59%. So he's winning right at 60% clip. But with that being said, again, here's that but. Uh, you know, Southern's motto is Southern is the standard. We know how Southern's fan base and Jackson State in the same barrel. I think it's tough to be an AD there. It's tough to be a coach, but I'm sure it's like that everywhere. But especially at those two aforementioned uh, universities. Uh, Coach Pettaway brought up some good points. Wheeler Brown brought up some good points, Charles. At the end of the day, it's going to be Coach Banks' decision, and he's got to nail this decision. Either way, if they move on from Coach Woods and go to another coach, his short list. Now, names have been just circulating all over. You want to hear? And I'm just saying from a fan's perspective. I'll give you two names. Well, I'll give you one. I'll give you two. Avery Johnson, Southern alum. I put it this way: if Southern decides to move in that direction, at least consult with Avery Johnson. He'd have to tell me no, but then he could recommend somebody in his humble opinion. Then you have a coaching legend on the high school level. Carlos Sample played at Southern University, led the Jaguars, numerous state titles. That's on the high school level. But again, those are just two names that you hear people talk about. For me, if that decision is made, I think you keep an open book. Those who are interested, talk to those who are expertise in the field and see what they think. Wheeler, then Charles. What I just said, Wheeler, I don't know. Seemed like your expression was on your face. It was like I don't know about that.
I say the common denominator for you, Carlos, seemed like they were alums of Southern University,
Don't have
and
to
I
be. Don't
think
have to be though.
okay, but I think that only carries you so far.
Hmm.
And I think it only carries you a short distance, and I think it only keeps the heat off of you for a short period of time. You win the press conference, which is what, ADs talk about, that sort of thing and stuff. Can I win the press conference? That's number one. So, yeah, those guys right there will help you win the press conference. But now, when the rubber meets the road, can they get it done? Yeah, and can they get it done in a specified time frame? Hey, because once again, now you as the AD, your seat is hot too.
Hmm.
And while conventional wisdom would say, well, it's a new coach, gonna take them 2, 3 years to get up to speed and all that sort of thing. You really don't have that kind of time.
No
You
5 years
know,
anymore, huh?
yeah, but you really don't have that kind of time. You need somebody that you can envision coming in and really, I ain't gonna say win you a championship in year one, but that can make you very, very competitive off the bat, and that can get you in the hunt in a relatively short period of time. And so you have to kind of ask yourself the question, can the two guys that you just mentioned, can they do that for you? Or is there going to be a learning curve or a growing curve, for the both of them in terms of coming back home, quote unquote, to get their feet wet and, get their bearings up under them because it's not the same Southern that they left years and years ago, and yeah, I've always said that, this going back to work for your alma mater thing, it can kind of be for the birds at the end of the day. It's not exactly, and I'm speaking from I'm speaking from experience on this one. It's not exactly all that it's cracked up to be. You find that your worst critics are those that you went to school with, or your alums at your institution, that sort of thing, because they're holding you to a much higher standard than they would anybody else that would come through the door, and they're expecting you to walk on water, and turn water into wine, the whole 9 yards with that, coming in the door. And sometimes that expectation is really unrealistic, regardless of, where the coach went to school, or, things of that nature. So there's a lot of pressure with being an alum and coming back. And especially if you were the kind of alum that really did well, at that particular school. So it can be some pressure that can kind of get to you on that end.
In other words, Charles, I think it's best to hire in their perspective the best person for the job, the best fit, and that doesn't necessarily have to be someone with Southern ties. You just want the best person for the job.
Yeah, and I look at Landon Bussey as a classic example. He's not an Alcornite. He was the number one assistant at Prairie View for 5 years. And so he's familiar with the SWAC landscape. And of course, he won 3 regular season champions. He was a part of a staff that won 3 regular season championships in a row at Prairie View. So he knew what the SWAC landscape looked like. So that was kind of an out of the box hire for us. But, I think for Wheeler Brown, what he said is interesting too, as far as being an AD seat. And I've been told this by various ADs. When you're an athletic director in Wheeler Brown, you can confirm this. You got a Rolodex of names just in case, because you never know when you're going to lose a coach one way or the other, whether a coach leaves, whether you just never know, family issues or whatever the case. You got to be prepared to pull the trigger if your coach leaves for whatever reason, whether you get rid of him, whether he moves on, family issues, whatever. So I guarantee you, Roman Banks has a Rolodex of names for every single sport under him in terms of if that coach leaves, including, and of course, men's basketball. So he's got some names out there that he's got in his back pocket. And the question is, if his administration, and this is my guess, Carlos, you know politics of it better than me. I think the administration is going to lean more on Roman Banks on this one because he's a former basketball coach. Now, maybe the president is getting some heat from boosters in the Jaguar Nation and say, hey, we need to go ahead and make a move, and he's got to do that. But I think they're going to lean on him being a former basketball coach to really get the pulse of where this program is. And if he's skittish about it, then something's going to probably happen here. So I think for Roman Banks, I think there's a little heat on him in this hire because he's a former basketball coach at Southern University. The Sean Woods thing hasn't gone the way that everyone expected. But I think as an AD, you get a couple of cracks at the apple. So if this didn't work out, he'll get another crack. And if this one doesn't work, then the heat, like you said, Mr. Brown, is going to be on him, especially being a former basketball coach himself. So number one, will the decision be made to move on? Number two, you got to get this one more right than you got the last one. And yeah, I'd love to see Avery Johnson. I would love to see Carlos Sample. But the question is, having experience on this level, does it automatically transcend into immediate results? Because there is going to be a learning curve. Kids are going to transfer out. You got to get up to speed on the whole recruiting thing and all the rules behind that. Yes, there will be talent coming in, but will it all fit to where you can pick up right where you left off in terms of being in the hunt? I do think there's going to be some steps back. The question is, how many? Is it going to be 2, 3? Southern right now, top 4 team, top 5 team. Do you fall into a bottom 4 team or a 7 seed before you move up? Do people have that kind of patience? I don't think so. So I think there's a lot on the table for AD Roman Banks to consider. Some of it is not necessarily his call. I think if this president and chancellor says make the move, he may not have time to think about it, but other than to make the move. But I do think, in my opinion, from the outside, they're going to lean on his expertise being a former basketball coach. What do you think? What do you see in the program? And if he looks and sounds skittish about it, then I think something will be done. But I think it's a very difficult decision. And nonetheless, he's got to get this one right either way. If he sticks with Coach Woods, it's got to be a turnaround. If he goes with another coach, it's got to work. Because you only get a couple of cracks at the apple as an AD in the major sports in terms of hiring coaches. You brought in Coach Dooley, and that's so far so good, but Sean Woods is not. It hasn't so far. Regardless of the case, whether he keeps him or whether he moves on, the next step's got to work. And as Wheeler Brown said, the pressure will be on him as an AD, and then that brings in a whole nother set of discussions.
And Carlos, I'd like to ask. I like to add to what Charles said. What's the process? At our HBCUs, you got to have a committee and a committee for the committee and a committee after that committee, that sort of thing. And can you expedite this process? And because you can't wait. If Coach Banks is going to make a move, then he needs to be by this Monday or so, making that move in terms of letting Coach Woods know, what's transpiring, that sort of thing. But, he needs to be on the fast track, so that I'm going to say probably by mid-April, he needs to have somebody ready to come through that door, and let's keep things moving. But if you got the former committee and then another committee after that, and then you got to weigh what the committee says and all that sort of thing, and then you need to find out how the president feels about things, and somehow you got to expedite this process, and let it be known that look, we're under the gun here. We're trying not to take too many steps backwards. And the longer that you guys have for me in terms of, allowing the process to drag itself out, the further behind we get. And so that's something that needs to be put out there first and foremost. I mean, the process is what the process is, and nobody knows that better than you guys. But somehow it's gotta be expedited if that's going to be the case to get somebody in that's going to be able to do some things in a short period of time.
Now
Well,
it's
Carlos,
interesting.
if I may
But it's
add to it real
interesting.
quick, if I may add to it real quick, I was on a committee. I was on a coaches committee for a football coach many years ago. And when I tell you it's an in-depth process, it is a process. You got a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
resumes in front of you. You got a checklist of what the qualifications are. Do they have this degree? Do they have that degree? And you got to scratch names off the list. That is not, and you got a committee of 12 or 13. It is a process. So if you're talking about a committee, and that's one thing. Now, if it's going to be left up to AD Banks to make that call, it may be a little bit more on the fast track. But when you're talking about a committee, as Wheeler Brown said, it is not, because there's going to be attitudes. People are going to be in their feelings about stuff, even though you got to look at the qualifications and go straight down the line with it. It is not an easy thing, and it is time consuming. So I don't know if Southern is going to do that. And I don't know if committees still exist on some of these positions, but I was on a committee at Alcorn for a football coach way back when. I was an alternate. But I was still a part of the process just in case somebody couldn't continue on, then I would be on the committee. And I can tell you, it is an in-depth process, and there's nothing easy about it. Very, very detailed. And you got to take your feelings out of it and look at what's black and white, what's on paper, what's the qualifications, does he have it, does he have a master's degree, whatever. I mean, all experience, you're looking at resumes, and so it's not an easy process. I don't know if that's the case or not, but you talk about committees, that is something that's very time consuming and tedious at the end of the day.
And
Well,
Carlos, this comes to mind. This comes to mind also. Okay, I'm gonna say probably about maybe 12 years ago. I was at North Carolina A&T, and I was the associate athletic director. Probably more like maybe 15 years ago. And we had a football position that was available. We wanted to hire Doug Williams, and our president at the time, and I think Doug was working with Tampa Bay. I believe at the time, in the front office, that sort of thing. So our president at the time wound up going down there to speak with Doug, and naturally, we couldn't come to a agreement with Doug to bring Doug to A&T at the time, but Doug made a recommendation for somebody that we should hire, who shall remain nameless. And that hire took place, okay, and took us into one of the worst times in A&T football history.
wow.
So, you kind of really have to kind of weigh those things in terms of taking recommendations from quote unquote star players, star coaches, and all that sort of thing and stuff. And so nobody did their homework on this hire. They just went with the fact that, well, Doug said that we need to. This is the guy that we need to hire for our program, and it didn't work out well. So that kind of lent itself to me that when you're taking recommendations, you still got to make sure that you do your homework, I's and T's are dotted and crossed. Prior to you just saying, well, Charles Edmond recommends this guy, I'm going to bring him in, and we're going to roll with it like that. That sort of thing.
Well, interesting point. And I know the last couple of hires, Coach Banks was given the leeway to, bypass having those big committees. What you said in the past, it has been that way. I've seen it. Um, but the last couple of hires, it basically cut those committees. It's basically his decision, and I guess it's, ultimately his decision, and a very short committee. They gave him permission to make the hire. And so, to your point on this one, again, if it comes to that, I'm thinking it's going to be the same process. Because when you look with Coach Dooley, he was given leeway to, you know, to short, I don't want to say short circuit, but get straight to it. And that was the money maker, the football decision. So I think he still will have that leeway to do it, in my opinion, if they make the decision to hire another men's basketball coach. I'm kind of monitoring some of the comments in the chat room. Some saying it's a no brainer. You got to make a move, but we shall see. Um, Wheeler, a 5-year time frame, isn't that enough of a period to make your evaluation and go with a decision?
Oh, definitely, no doubt about that. I mean, more, I've always said that you know what you have by year three.
Hmm.
You know what kind of coach you have at that time. By the time the roster is pretty much 70% his, you know what you're bringing to the table, that sort of thing. So yeah, to have had 5 years to get it done, I don't think it's
Hmm.
unrealistic to have expected not just a championship in that 5 year period, but to have been in the hunt maybe at least 2 to 3
Hmm.
of those years. When I say in the hunt, I mean being in that upper third or being in that 1-2 slot on a regular basis. Not that you have to win a championship every year, but yeah, 5 years you've had more than enough of an opportunity uh, to really show me what you can do, that sort of thing. I think like you were looking at the winning percentages, and you had him from Southern right at 59%. I think historically you were kind of alluding to the fact he wins at a 60% clip, so he's pretty much right where he is, as Bill Process says. You are what your record says you are. And, obviously, Carlos, he's a 60% uh, winning coach, that sort of thing. And so, at the end of the day, we have to decide, is 60% enough? And, for the
Hmm.
Southern faithful, you have to say no. uh, from an athletic director's point of view, you want to be closer to 70, maybe 75% or above.
That was my number.
That would be more satisfactory on a yearly basis. And so all the reasons are there, to really make the decision that you need to make. And like I said, winning kind of helps overlook, and it shouldn't be this way, but it is, kind of help overlook some poor graduation rate, kind of help overlook some poor retention rate, kind of helps overlook some behavior problems in some instances, not, bombing the campus or something of that nature, but, winning kind of overshadows all that. But those things on a positive note, 100% graduation rate, 100% APR rate, outstanding citizens, and things of that nature. They sound good to the general public, but they're not going to overcome the lack of winning. So
Hmm.
while winning helps overshadow some of the other things, those other things can't help you, okay, overshadow the fact that you're not winning.
And you know something else? I'm going to get your guys' opinion on this. If I'm not mistaken, Southern University led the conference in attendance, basketball attendance. So you could kind of see the disappointment because that has been the issue. Even people have brought up looking at the SWAC basketball tournament for this year, the sparse crowd. Now, look, we know in this geographical blueprint, football is king, even with attendance. But what does that say, guys? If Southern University led the conference in attendance, and I want to say it was maybe between 3,000 and 4,000, you can now see the disappointment that they've come out, and you see a team once again, January doing well, February just downward. I guess, guys, is that a factor that AD Banks will look at as well as part of the overall body of work? Somebody can answer it.
Oh, I, I think it'll be a factor of a small factor, but I think if he moves on and the team is winning somewhat, I think the fans will still be there. I mean, yes, it was good crowds at the F&G Clark Center. I was there, Alcorn and Southern. I saw the Alcorn Grambling deal when the Grambling came down there. I did think it was some good crowds. I think that will play somewhat of a factor, but I do think the overall product, where the program is right now, will determine whether or not he stays. I think attendance to me is a small factor. I don't think it's the big factor. It is a small factor in it. Attendance was up, but if you still don't get to where you think you should be, how long does that last? If people think, well, we'll be 11-7 or 10-8 and fizzle in the first round, then people the next year will say, well, it's going to be the same old same again. I might just back up a little bit and not attend. So I think that's a small factor, but not the biggest factor.
Well,
Yeah,
I guess
I agree.
let me rephrase this, guys. We see what has happened. We've talked about how they nosedive, but I think it gives the fans even more added energy to say, look, we came out and we supported the basketball program. Because let's be honest, we've talked about it before. Attendance wise, everybody would like their numbers up from an 80 perspective. I know this. I'm going to say for a fact, but I think it just gives more animosity, negative energy when you led the conference in attendance, and once again you nosedive. But not to Charles' point, you may see them not come out as much next year if the same people are in place. Wheeler?
I don't. I think the Southern faithful are going to be there pretty much through hell and high water. I think that's just the nature of you guys' fan base, that sort of thing. Naturally, if there is a prolonged period of losing or not doing well, then you're going to see some effects of that, from a negative point of view.
Mhm.
But historically, I think the Southern fan base has pretty much been there through thick and thin. And
Mhm.
so I'm like Charles with that one. I don't think that particular aspect would rank really high on my list of reasons why I need to change. I need to change coaches. Yeah, because initially, you got the newness of the new coach coming in, the curiosity factor, that sort of thing. So that may help bump things up a little bit.
Mhm.
Uh, and then hopefully as, that coach continues to improve or the team continues to improve and do well. And, we look at, 60% clip, Carlos, ain't necessarily bad. it just
No.
ain't Southern University standard. So there are
Mhm.
probably some schools that would take 60% and kind of be glad with it. A
Mhm.
10-8 or 11-7 or something like that. At some SWAC schools that might would spell success. And spell contract extension. It just so happens that, at Southern and maybe at a few other schools, you got to be closer to 70, 75%,
5%.
for people to really, really kind of buy into, what's going on. So, I mean, 60% ain't necessarily bad. Like I said, it's just not up to Southern University standards. And there's probably a few other schools that probably say the same thing. But you have some schools that would probably kill for 60% winning percentage. You know.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, Carlos, this is a risk. This is a very big roll of the dice scenario for Roman Banks and the administration. Um, so if you look at 60% clip, you got 18 conference games. You're looking at 11-7, anywhere from 10-8 to 11-7 every year in
Not good
conference.
enough. Not good enough. Not good enough.
Yes, so you're talking about 13 and
Just
5.
my opinion.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
get it. So you're looking at 10-8, 11-7 every year, maybe 12-6 is a little bit of a bump
Like
there.
this year, huh?
Yeah, that's it. And you were in first place. You lost 4 or 5, 5 or 6, whatever it was, and you dropped to a 5 seed, I believe. So you're top part of the league. Um, I think and just thinking about it, just doing the numbers on it, it's going to be a really intriguing decision either way. And I'm looking at some of the responses too. I saw a response that said, if you let them go, you're taking steps back. Some people are saying that pull the plug now. I think it's becoming clear that it's going to be a difficult decision either way. I don't think it's going to be an easy decision no matter what. If you extend them, and look, and to my question, when you get a 1-year extension, if you're on a 1-year extended deal, and I'm learning this, and Wheeler Brown kind of brought it to my attention a couple weeks ago. When you are on a 1-year deal, is that pretty much spelling the beginning of the end? I mean, if you got 2 years left and you win and you get a 1-year extension, you still got 2 years. But if you're on a 1-year deal, extended deal, it's either all or nothing. Either you got to get it done in an elevated way, and if you don't, that's it. I mean, so to me, I'm learning a little
Mm.
bit about that. How if you got 3 years left, is one thing, but when you're on a 1-year deal and didn't get extended to a 2-year deal, you're pretty much running out of time, if not run out of time already. So he's kind of, can you explain that to me, Wheeler Brown, a little bit in terms of that extension when you're on that? Does that mean pretty much that the confidence level is low? It's just a matter of not if it's going to happen, but when a change is going to be made at that point.
And Carlos, how does Coach Banks' uh, one loss percentage compare to Coach Wood?
No, you gave me
Just a
another
question,
assignment.
just something that
Yeah, no,
well,
you've given me another assignment, but not having it in front of me, I'm willing to bet that Banks has a slight edge. But we
okay.
shall see. I'm gonna look. You just give me a homework assignment. And it
Just a thought.
oh, okay. That was a thought, but I've seen some people say, well, you know, it's going to end up being both gone because, to your point earlier, you were talking about they're tied at the hip. That's his hire. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it comes back to what decision will he make. I've given my opinion, what direction I would go. That's just me. I would thank him for his contributions to Southern University basketball program, but I would move on. That's just
Whatever
me.
decision he makes, Carlos, he's got to make it soon. Time is
Hmm.
of the essence. So he can't take these next 2 weeks and think it out and then say, through careful deliberation, we decided X, Y, Z, that sort of thing. We know these things are already on his mind. He already
Mhm.
has that matrix out there in terms of what he was looking for, expectations, so forth and so on. Either you meet those expectations or you don't.
Mhm.
Either like I said before, either you all in or you all out. You know, but you gotta make a call, and you gotta make it pretty quick.
Well,
Go ahead,
I'm
Charles.
just looking it up, Carlos. Roman Banks coaching career conference. I guess we can look at conference.
Mhm.
2011 through 2017, he was 77 and 31 in conference. That's 71% winning percentage. So if you
Mhm.
look at what he did as head coach, he won 2 championships in 12-13 round of 64, in the playing game in 15 and 16. So he won in conference at a 71% clip.
More to my
Sean Woods
liking,
is
Willer.
and Sean Woods is 11 or 12 points below that. So if you want to use the data to
Mhm.
compare and contrast, there you have it. Not quite, didn't even get to the, to the round there, didn't get to the big dance, all of that. So if you want to look at that, you can look at that. The numbers clearly indicate that.
Mhm.
I
Say it
think
again.
you'll
How
seal
many?
the verdict there.
Oh, yeah. Uh, and I didn't have the numbers. Thanks, Charles, for looking that up. But I did say, not having the information in front of me, I would give Coach Banks the edge. And compare and contrast, that has been such the case. That's been the case. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. Hey, I'm not saying it's an easy job. Willa, you're a director of athletics. You know the pressure that comes with being an AD, with being a coach. I'm only just a host of a sports talk show. I can only give my opinions and then try to give the facts. Um, if I was in his place, I already know what my decision would be. I just stated it, what I would do. Now, on the women's side, Coach Funches, people have asked me about, well, it's time to evaluate his situation. He's playing for a conference championship. He's been part of a conference championship. Guess we'll look up his record as well. Evaluation. But I think he's in a much better place. And even if they lose today, I still think you go in and look at doing something for Coach Funches. Now, if they would have lost in the first round, they didn't. Then you still would evaluate at the end of the season. Am I right, Wheeler? Every year, that's what you do, like an
Uh,
exit interview.
yes, there's no doubt about that, Carlos, at all. Now how long has this person been there? That's all. And I guess
Ooh,
a lot of years.
I'm gonna say at least 4 or 5,
Okay. Long enough, long enough time
maybe
period
more.
to have a decent body of work, and long enough to be able to say, whether or not this person is going to be the one moving forward. So I mean, you definitely want to, look at, uh, contract situations and things of that nature. See what's left. Does a championship game appearance warrant an extra added year to what's already there? That sort of thing. I mean, if they got 2 years left, does a championship game appearance kind of give you a 1 year rollover? That sort of thing. I mean, that's some things that,
Hmm.
from an AD's point of view, you want to look at, prematurely, to kind of decide in your mind exactly, which way you want to go. So you're always looking to see if you can, uh, keep good people. If you can, whatever it takes to keep good people. And when you realize that you made a mistake and you got a person that maybe is not so good, as much as it pains you to say that, maybe I kind of messed up on this one. Nobody bats 1,000 in the hiring game. Nor should you have to feel like you have to bat 1,000. Nobody bats 1,000. But the key is once you recognize and realize that this may not work out, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit back and just hope that things work out okay or next year gets better? Or are you going to be proactive and look to try to make a move or acknowledge that, this one didn't work out so well. Hopefully I'll do better on the next go round and try to keep it moving from there.
And something's always been intriguing. I think me and Charles debated this over the years. Rollover extension versus just a pay raise. Are those two tied together, or could you choose one or the other, Willer, when deciding on, say for instance, at the time, Coach Spivery, his first year, or any coach, you do well in the first year, you already have a contract in place. Is it best to uh, give a rollover or extension in its time, or is it better to just go in and say, hey, we want to give a pay raise if we can afford it to the coach and his staff?
For me, Carlos, I take the rollover. I think it's
Hmm.
more security with the rollover because you're talking about a year's worth of salary. If I give you like a raise or something like that, it's probably only going to be a few thousand, maybe five, maybe 10 or what have you. But it's not like I'm extending your entire salary for a
Security.
year longer. So,
Hmm.
I would think that the rollover would be much more attractive, to most
Hmm.
coaches, because it gives
How
you a little bit
long?
more job security, that sort of thing.
What's
Uh,
a good number? Say again, in the first year, you exceed expectations. I guess I'm kind of fearful or leery of rolling over, say, a 5-year extension. Oh,
Well,
I
no,
think that's
I
too
don't
many.
think I don't think you ever. I ain't gonna say ever, but I don't think you almost ever want to look at a rollover pack, and that depends on how many years they have left on the contract.
Hmm.
If they have 2 years left on the contract, then giving them an extended year really gives them 3 years left on that contract, which to me, is more of a job security type motion, that sort of thing. If they have 1 year left, and then I'm only going to give them a 1 year rollover, then what is it that I'm really saying about
Hmm.
whether or not I really want you to stay around? I mean, you
Gotcha.
might be doing a decent job, that sort of thing. But if I'm doing a decent job and I'm going into the last year of my contract, why are we not working on another 3 years as opposed to you giving me a 1 year rollover? So that says a lot about the situation, that sort of thing. And, you also got to be mindful if I'm a first year coach and I'm dealing primarily with somebody else's kids, and I come in and I do real well, okay, does that mean I should tack on another 2 years to the end of the deal that I've already situated? Because I really don't know who you are yet. Just the fact that maybe you did a good job with somebody else's kids. So you really got to be mindful of the entire situation and weigh everything in its entirety, prior to sticking yourself out there and deciding which way you want to go with that.
I was gonna pick
Well,
with
I
Charles.
can
I,
speak
I, I
Carlos
say
for
Charles would add 2 or 3 years onto that contract for the first year.
well, I think state of Mississippi law will prohibit me from doing that because the most I think Wheeler Brown was around at Jackson State when the most a coach can get in the state of Mississippi is 4 years. That's the
Mm-hmm.
most at any point in
Mm-hmm.
time. So for Landon Bussey,
Mm-hmm.
for example, Landon Bussey got an extension after his first year because it was a COVID
Hmm.
year. We lost 12 games due to COVID. Okay, so the president obviously felt like it was an incomplete resume in her mind because of losing all these games due to COVID, didn't play the games. So then he comes back and wins 2 straight regular season titles. I think he got an extension last year after winning the regular season last year. I think he may get another extension this year in order to keep the contract fresh, 3 or 4 years. I think he'll have that again this year. So I think it just depends. Some of it on state law, some of it on philosophy. I think, as you said, Mr. Brown, I think coaches would love that security of having an additional year, knowing that you're a little bit more comfortability in continuing to build a quality product. I think coaches would take the 1 year extension as compared to a raise. Now, you can get both. If you win the regular season, you get a little bit. You win the tournament, you get a little bit. You go to the NIT, you get a little bit. You go to the NCAA tournament, you go to the first round, win that, you get a little bit more as you move up. So I think coaches probably have the best of both worlds in that situation. They'll get a little bit of a bonus, and they might get extended too. So I think most coaches in this league probably have both of those tied into their deals. But I think if you had to choose one, I think a coach would rather have the 1 year extension to give them a little bit more cushion as compared to the dollar amount that's tied to it.
Interesting, Willer.
I agree.
Because
I agree.
yeah. So
And
if
I've
we can
always
just
been one, Carlos, that I've always shied away from a lot of the things that I'm paying you to do in the beginning. I'm paying you to win.
sound like
I'm
somebody
paying you to
else I know.
graduate your kids. I'm paying you to graduate your kids. I'm paying you to retain your kids. So when I look at some of these contracts and I see a $5,000 bonus for a 980 APR, a $5,000 bonus for a 3.0 GPA, a $3,000 bonus for winning the conference regular season title. Ain't these things I'm paying you for in the beginning? I'm just saying.
Charles, he sounds like somebody we know, Charles, from the past.
Oh, trust me, there are a lot of fans that I've talked to this day, even as recently as last week, about a contract extension and winning. And like, look, we're paying you to win. This is what we're paying you to do. So yeah, to Wheeler Brown's point, there are some people who feel the same way that he feels. Your kids are supposed to graduate. That's what you're supposed to do. But I think in today's society, I think in today's world of athletics, coaches get rewarded for that because there's this assumption that coaches are supposed to put their student athletes in that position to do that. Instead of it being a part of the basic requirement of the job, it's an added duty of the job, and you get paid for that added duty. So there are a lot of fans, may not put it on social media, but a lot of fans have talked to me about that. Like, this is what we're getting. He's getting paid to do this. Why are we giving him an extension or paying him more money? But that's just the nature of the business in college athletics. Like or dislike, that's just the reality.
Yeah, you can't be.
If you want to pay
be too
somebody, Carlos, pay the tutors. Pay the class checkers. Pay the people that are running behind these kids and making sure that they're doing the right thing. If you want to reward somebody, these are the people that you need to reward.
How about the compliance officers, the added
that too, definitely
athletic resource positions? How about the position coaches? Oh my, the position coaches are underpaid in most cases. Now we're talking about on our level. I'm not talking about the upper echelon. So it's all needs to be some adjustments made. But guys, it's been interesting. We've talked about contracts, extensions from the AD's perspective, from a coach's perspective, Charles Edmond's perspective, and I see people in the chat room adding their opinions to this conversation. We've gotten you guys predictions coming up at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. 2023 SWAC Women's Tournament Championship. Southern University against Arkansas Pine Bluff. On the men's side, it'll be Texas Southern and Grambling State University. And Wheeler in the MEAC, some finals. We don't talk as much MEAC as we should. But Howard, Norfolk State, some intriguing battles have taken place in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. But it's March Madness now. It's tournament time. This time next week, we'll know a little bit about who's going where, who's going to be in the play-ins. I don't know if it was Charles or someone last week talked about. It looks like the winner of the SWAC will have a playing game against the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. That will be exciting in itself. So as a
That would be.
conference, as a conference, we need to continue to strive to get better. So hopefully one day, it will have an opportunity to add some at-large bids. I know a lot of work to be done. Charles, closing
Well,
comments.
quick. I think if Grambling wins the championship, they'll probably be a 16 or 15 seed. If Texas Southern wins the championship, they're going to Dayton.
16 seed. Okay.
Yeah, if Grambling wins it, 16, 15. They had a winning record in non-conference. They beat Arizona
Big
State.
wins.
I think and they were pretty good in conference. But if Texas Southern wins it, then I think they're going to Dayton. That's just my prediction.
I'm hopeful, but somehow, and what you said, you're correct. But I put it this way: I wouldn't be surprised if they're still in the play-in, but the record says otherwise. I understand that. We'll close the comments and we'll wrap this show up.
Well, Carlos, as usual, it's always a pleasure to be with you guys on Saturday, and getting to be a recurring thing, which I like that, and looking forward to the next opportunity to speak with you guys and give my viewpoint. It's an opportunity to put some things out there from an administrative point of view, and hopefully pass along some words of wisdom or words of not so wisdom, and looking forward to continuing to be with you guys as often as possible.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and your perspective. Appreciate Charles, the opinions and knowledge that he brings. And also want to thank all of our guests today. And, of course, Melody behind the scenes. We're still working, a work in progress, and we want to continue to do well. So with that being said, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you join us next Saturday at 11 a.m. Charles, that's a little bit early there. 11 a.m. Central Standard Time to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. And once again, want to thank, if I didn't, Melanie behind the scenes producing today's show. Until next time, peace and God bless. Go Jaguars, go SWAC, go HBCUs.